The first patch 7.2 live letter took place recently. Here are my 3 positive takeaways, and my 3 negative ones. They never mentioned the variant or criterion dungeon, which means it's unlikely we'll be getting 3 in Dawntrail. Bad. We get this new emote to style on the guy who dies in dungeons. Good. We continue the trend of receiving unreal encounters I could not care less about. Bad. This Gundam mount and outfit might be the 2 coolest new additions in recent memory. Good. There's still another month and a half to wait. Bad. The new field operation, Occult Crescent, looks genuinely interesting. Good. And it's that which I want to have a deeper conversation about today, because we heard some really promising things. As the title suggests, I do of course want to dive a little deeper into the Phantom job system. So just like Eureka and Bozja have their own bespoke leveling systems and unique abilities that help craft them into a more unique experience than the general combat system, Occult Crescent has been confirmed to possess one too. It's called the Phantom job system, and you can seemingly have one equipped at a time, for now at least. Your Phantom job will then offer you a number of unique, equipable actions and passive traits that you can utilize on top of your standard job actions. Based on what seems to be a fairly limited number of slots for actions and traits available, my expectation is that Phantom jobs will possess a decent variety that will encourage particular playstyles or allow for niche special rotations, and you'll need to pick and choose depending on what you want to spec into for that particular instance. Considering that there are 21 jobs in the game right now, we know of at the very least 9 Phantom jobs that have been confirmed thus far, it's clear that we can expect a lot of theory crafting and customization potential, and for this to hopefully be a pretty robust system. 2 jobs which they used as specific examples were Monk and Bard, which are both represented in the Phantom job system. Monk is generally an offensive Phantom with an arsenal of damage supplementing capabilities and actions such as Phantom Kick and Occult Counter. Bard, on the other hand, is more of a supportive Phantom job, and one action they listed for it was named Mighty March. Phantom Kick just sounds like it's a raw damage action with standard potency, but Occult Counter has a lot of potential to be really interesting based on the name alone. It could be as simple as a cooldown that has you reflect the damage you receive back to the sender for a set period of time, or set period of quantity of hits potentially as well, much like the secondary trait of Warrior's Damnation or Vengeance cooldown. But it could also be a really unique ability with a function similar to Astrologian's Macrocosmos, but focused on damage dealing rather than healing. So imagine, as an example, it compiles the damage received for a set period of time, and then at the end of the timer it throws it back twofold. You could have this really fun little interplay of pairing this ability with a job that has good self-healing such as Warrior, where they will intentionally take avoidable damage to boost the damage compilation, then heal up their wounds and be rewarded with a big hit at the end. What I'm hoping for is that these Phantom jobs promote unique playstyles that are satisfying to perform and reward you for thinking outside of the box. If we go back to Shadowbringers when Bozja first released, one lost action that really exemplified this in my opinion was Lost Blood Rage. So, what Blood Rage did was it gave you increased damage dealt and reduced your damage taken with each stack you obtain. You got stacks by using gap closers, and when you capped out at the maximum of 4 stacks, you'd get a special buff called Blood Rush. What was really cool about this was it further increased your damage, it gave you a passive regen as well, but on top of both of those it gave you a 75% cooldown reduction. This was an ability for tanks and was most effective on Warrior, which possesses 3 stacks on their gap closer as opposed to 2 on the others. And thanks to that cooldown, it would allow you to use Inner Release near enough twice back to back if you set it up correctly. You could then pair that with Banner of Honored Sacrifice, which boosted your damage dealt by a lot, but the risk reward of that skill was it also drained your health to offset your increased damage. But you're regenning HP anyway naturally thanks to the Blood Rush buff, negating that initial downside. Made you from a tank into a destroyer of gods that could do damage on par with a DPS during those burst windows. These are the kind of synergies I'm hoping for, and why I genuinely hope that a skill like Occult Counter ends up being all it can rather than the lowest common denominator. Mighty March is one that we can fairly easily predict as well. In Final Fantasy V, it is a party-wide regen, whereas in Theatre Rhythm, where it features once more, it provides the party with additional stamina. It's going to likely end up being the former, maybe with an additional secondary effect of an on-use initial heal or shield or something like that to accompany that regen. I actually really like this system conceptually, because it's a natural progression from the Lost Action system. So Eureka's original system was added partway through its cycle, and seemingly didn't seem to be pre-planned from the beginning, and as a direct result it felt like the least naturally ingrained into Final Fantasy XIV's overall systems, with, for me personally, a slightly lower level of creativity available than in what came next. Bodja followed, touting the Lost Action system, which took the same initial concept but then refined it. More options, additional unique gameplay styles, and making this system truly make sense. But both Lost Actions and Eureka Actions were fairly annoying to actually manage on an instance-to-instance basis, in part due to the need to constantly return to base camp in order to make adjustments whenever you wanted to make a minute alteration to your build, potentially losing some of your invested consumables in doing so, and secondarily due to the fact that, like I just mentioned, the entire system hinged on you using those consumables. Because of that, you would often run into players refusing to interact with the system at all because they didn't want to waste money, or they didn't want to invest quote-unquote in an optimal build in a niche side mode. I believe that both of these systems hinging on the use of consumables to actually function hamper their ability to be interesting, engaging, and they directly reduce incentivization for the average player to follow through on their initial point, which is experimentation. In the Phantom Job system, this isn't the case, as all of the actions and traits are themselves baked into the system. My guess is that you'll obtain more abilities over time for each job through the progression cycle, but that you won't need to pay or utilize cosmetics to slot or use the skills themselves. This is good. My hope is that in the future, you may be able to slot multiple Phantom Jobs, or bring back a bespoke version of the cross-class system, although there is something similar already semi-confirmed, more of that in a moment, allowing you even more player choice. There are a lot of directions in which this system can grow and become more than it is right now. But what are the currently confirmed Phantom Jobs? Well, they're all from Final Fantasy V so far. There's Freelancer, the starting job in that game, Monk and Bard, as well as Geomancer, Ranger, Berserker, Time Mage, Chemist, and Cannoneer. These have all been 100% confirmed thus far via the live letter, and Yoshida had this to say about them according to the Reddit translation. FF14 is an MMO after all, so looking into the future we want to implement new jobs in 8.0 and beyond. But for some players there are obviously jobs from past Final Fantasy series that they have a lot of memories with. But unfortunately some of those jobs simply wouldn't fit the concept of FF as an MMO, Time Mage as an example. But we did think, maybe in this kind of content as a Phantom and support job, maybe we can go a little crazy with it. So while there is a small chance some of these jobs might make it to the main game in the future, I was also told players know and say to don't trust Yoshi P, so take that as you will. Final Fantasy V has more jobs than the ones already confirmed though, and these are the most likely shoo-ins to become extra choices to pick from. These include Knight, Thief, Black Mage, White Mage, Blue Mage, Red Mage, Summoner, Mystic Knight, Mime, Beastmaster, Ninja, Dragoon, Dancer, Samurai, and limited to the 2013 version, there's also Necromancer, Gladiator, and Oracle. We could definitely see original jobs or more brought across some other games, but these are by far the most likely inclusions. Here's what some of their original iterations do. In FF14 they won't be identical, but I expect there will be some kind of similarity as a basic through line. Freelancer gains abilities from each other job that the player has mastered, allowing them to act as a decent conduit for a potential cross-class system to take effect. We could see some kind of system where they can slot one ability from other jobs, allowing you to pick and choose based on which jobs you've invested in. Knight has defensive abilities such as cover and guard, as well as the ability to equip myriad weapons and armors that offer unique traits. Time Mage specializes in buffing allies and debuffing foes, and possessing spells such as haste, slow, and stop. They also use gravity magic as their primary offensive tech. Berserker is a weird one, because you don't really control it properly in FF5. They're powerful and tanky, and will automatically and continuously attack the foe until one side has fallen. Mystic Knight has a Spellblade, allowing them to charge their weapons with spells before use, most of them traditionally originating from the Black Mage's toolkit. Mime has the special capability of copying the last spell or skill used by an ally, and then blasting it out themselves. Geomancer attacks change based on which terrain they're standing on upon cast completion, and use bells as their primary weapons. Necromancers can summon demons, become undead themselves with a slew of boons and debuffs accompanying it, and access darker forms of Black Mage offensive magic. There are many and more, and if you're interested you can take a look into what those original Final Fantasy V iterations do for a good idea of what we can expect. I'm really looking forward to hear more about this feature, more so than I am about any non-Savage content releasing alongside patch 7.2. I really think Square Enix may be onto something special. We're just going to have to wait and see. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.